Everyone, and welcome to today's District 100 Learning Lab. We are so honored to have Matt Kinsey. Let me tell you a little bit about Matt. Matt Kinsey, distinguished Toastmaster, past international president, is a business leader, cybersecurity strategist, and past international president of Toastmasters International 2022-2023. As Managing Director and Chief Information Security Officer of IT Fusion, he has helped professional services firms navigate risk, compliance, and the rapidly evolving digital landscape. As a Toastmaster since 2003, Matt has served in leadership roles at every level of the organization, culminating in his election to the highest volunteer office in Toastmasters worldwide. During his presidency, he championed leadership development, global growth, and member engagement across 150 countries and territories. Matt is passionate about helping leaders think differently about performance, presence, and personal effectiveness. In this presentation, The Work-Life Balance, he challenges one of the most widely accepted ideas in modern professional life and offers a more dynamic, sustainable way to approach success. He lives in South Florida with his family and remains committed to developing leaders who are intentional, resilient, and always growing. Today, he's here to challenge a concept many of us have accepted without question, and that is work-life balance. In this presentation, he explores why the pursuit of balance may actually be creating more stress, guilt and confusion, frustration, and what is more dynamic, sustainable approach to a life might look like instead. Please join me in welcoming Matt Kinsey, Distinguished Toastmaster, past international president. Matt, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Charla, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. I don't know how many places we've got represented, but I see Michael there. He says he's just chilling, and I like that, just chilling. I like that, Michael. We've all been taught about work-life balance for decades now, and it's this concept that is very appealing. It's very appealing, especially for people in my age group. I'm a Generation X in the United States, and we're known as the independent, self-sustaining, work hard, have fun, and be on our own mostly. I mean, we were the latchkey kids. We were the kids who left in the morning and came home when the street lights came on. That was the rule. By the time the street lights were fully on, I had to be home. And I would leave on a Saturday morning at, 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and we would run around, and whoever's house we were at lunch, we would stop and eat lunch, and whoever's house we were at dinner, we'd stop and eat dinner, and then we'd come home. And it was no big deal. It was just the way the entire community was. So we tend to define ourselves by our career. If you ask a Gen X, what are you? They usually start with their career because it's kind of a safe territory. You're not revealing too much about yourself to say, well, I'm an engineer, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm a marketing specialist. It's pretty safe. But for many of us, especially in my generation, and I think across generations, your career becomes a defining part of who you are. And that's one of the challenges that we've got. See, I'm a man of many hats. I have my family. That's my wife, almost 37 years, my son, who's 36, my daughter, who's 34, and her two boys who have since gotten their hair cut. I need to get a new image. They do have short hair now, but they are 8 and 10. And then I've been a scout leader. This is my 30th year of volunteering with the Boy Scouts of America. For the last 5.5 years, I've been a member of the Economic Development Advisory Committee in the city of Coral Springs, where I live. As Charlie said, I've been a member of Toastmasters for 20 years, and I served on the board of directors for 7 of those years. And I'm a founding partner of IT Fusion, IT and cybersecurity company located here in South Florida. I also have to worry about my health. I also have to worry about my faith. I also have to worry about so many things, other people who are my friends and family, many hats. Now, does anybody know what this is? Well, I'll give you a diagram. That is the formula to balance a teeter-totter. Now, you probably remember a teeter-totter when you grew up. I don't think they're quite as common now. I still see them though. And you've got a pivot point, you've got a person on each end. And if you ever tried to balance it perfectly level, like how long does that last? And what do you have to do? Well, maybe if you weigh a little bit more than the other person, you've got to move closer in. All right. And then they move further out and that balances out. That's the way levers work. All right. You know, uh, it was said, Archimedes said, give me a lever, I can move the world. And honestly, that's true. But look, here's the problem. The weight is different on each end. So the distance has to be adjusted. And where does all of the weight fall? On you. You're in the middle. You're that pole right there that is taking all of the weight of this entire system and trying to balance it out. And honestly, that's stressful. Now, just for fun, because our life isn't really just divided into work and life, our life looks more like this. We've got health, faith, family, career, education, community involvement. There's so many different factors. And then you move into a matrix solution. And if you've ever tried to balance a matrix solution, if there's any electricians in there, you know exactly what I'm talking about because they use Clark transformations all the time. But this is a Clark transformation for those non-electricians out there. And you're trying to balance this so that the sum of everything equals zero. This is incredibly complex, incredibly complex. And it's like it's like this pin here. It's theoretically possible, and I've done it, to stand this pin on its point and have it stay static. But if anything happens, a gust of wind, somebody walks up the stairs too heavily and puts a little vibration through the house, the pen collapses because it's an inherently unsteady system. It is a dynamic system. And that's the problem I have with work-life balance because balance, by definition, at least one of the definitions of balance, is the equalization of opposing forces. We're trying to equalize opposing forces to have everything in balance. It's a state of equilibrium. And it is, I love this word. If you need a word of the day, ephemeral, ephemeral. Ephemeral means it only lasts momentarily. So how do we live in a life that is dynamic and ever changing when the framework we're using to try to manage that life is based on a static equation? If you've been trying the same thing for years, and I have, I'm sure many of you have, to balance your life and it's not failing, perhaps the problem isn't you. Perhaps the problem isn't the goals. Perhaps the problem is the framework that you're using. You're solving the wrong mathematical equation. And you're trying to apply math to something that is inherently dynamic. See, the goal is good. Many of you have probably seen Zig Ziglar's old big rocks, and if you put the big rocks in the jar first, and if I ask you if that jar is full, you'd probably say yes. Well, I can pour the smaller gravel in there, it'll fill in all the holes. And then I'll say, is that full? And you'll say, yeah, it's full. And then you pour the sand in, it fills in more holes. And then you say, is it full? And then finally someone in the room goes, no, because they finally get it. And then you pour water in and you fill it up the rest of the way. And if you go even down to the subatomic particle level, it's still mostly space. All right, it's still mostly space at the subatomic particle level. So the goal is good. How do we take care of the big things in our life first and make sure those get taken care of? Because if we do that first, we can get a lot more into our life than if we take care of the small things. It's kind of like work. I'm an engineer. I love checklists. I absolutely, you give me a checklist, I'm like, check, 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 check. And then the problem is that the bottom item on my list was the most important thing I was supposed to get done that day. Oh, I see Michael's nodding his head. He knows what I'm talking about. It was the most important thing I had to get done today. And guess what? I didn't get it done because I didn't take care of the big thing first. So the goal is good. I'm not criticizing that. I'm also going to tell you if you feel that you've got a life of work-life balance and you're content and those around you are content with that, do not change what you're doing. Don't, please. Don't just change this for the sake of change. But if you're like me, if you're like many people I've talked to, the majority of people I've talked to who struggle with this, then I ask you to consider a different framework. Here's the challenge. See, balance is static, life is motion. Do you stay in the same place? I mean, I've moved multiple times in my life, just from city to city, big moves. But I'm moving right now. I'm not staying still. If I were staying still, I couldn't speak. The air that I'm using so that you can hear the words I'm saying wouldn't be moving. Nothing would be hitting your ears. Everything is motion. Balance is based on opposing forces. Life, a well-lived life, is where forces should work together. And let me give you an example of that. When I was on the board of directors at Toastmasters, somebody asked me with my business, they said, Matt, if you hadn't spent all of this time on Toastmasters and scouting that you spent, would your business be further along? And my almost immediate answer was, well, yeah, of course it would. But then I had to think about it. And I went, wait a second. That sales presentation I did last week and the problem the guy was trying to solve, I learned how to solve that problem working in Toastmasters. Oh, this gentleman who I've been having trouble communicating with, I learned some communication skills in Toastmasters that helped me communicate with him. Oh, this customer, when I went to Mexico as a student to learn Spanish, I was able to figure out why we weren't communicating because English was his fourth language, but Spanish was his native language. These things need to work together, and that's the life best lived, where there's no artificial separation between life and work. The pursuit of balance leads many people to feeling guilty. So early in my life, I was really trying to live work-life balance. I mean, I was spending time with my children, with scouting, with soccer, all of these different things. But my daughter felt that I was spending more time with my son. And honestly, if you look at it on an hour basis, I probably was. Because he and I were doing the Boy Scout thing and Cub Scout thing, and my wife and her were doing the Girl Scout thing. But in my daughter's mind, that became a barrier. And it's something that we still work through to this day. But I was trying to leave. But then when I found out that it was a barrier, I felt guilty. Here I was doing the best I could, trying to make things work. And the result wasn't good. And we know life is damaged by guilt. People who live in a state of guilt have psychological issues that they need to work through. Guilt causes physical health harm. Your cortisol levels, your stress levels, everything raises when you're living in a level of guilt, and that has all sorts of damage. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a medical doctor, but if you go to a medical doctor, talk about living in guilt, especially a therapist, they'll tell you how damaging that is to your mental and physical health. So I want you to listen and tell me what you hear. And this is an analogy for life. We start off in our parents' womb as a single thought, a single thing. All that we care about is feed me. All that we care about is ourselves. We're the only thing that exists in the world. But then we live and you hear other things coming into your life. You hear your mother's voice, your father's voice, the people around you. Your life begins to change, it begins to fulfill. Now you start integrating with school and learning more and more. The themes in your life are beginning to change. You're beginning to understand that you are a part of something that is much bigger, a part of something. And now you're becoming to realize who you are. You're realizing that you have power. There's power in your presence. There's power in what you can do to make the world a better place. And then you fall in love. That special person comes into your life. The themes change. Now you're not just living for yourself, you're living for somebody else at a deeper level than you ever have. But you're still there in the middle of that. You are still there. Your theme, your purpose in life is still yet to be fulfilled. And then you age. And you finish out your life. And you ask yourself, did I meet my purpose? Did I do a good job? Will people remember me for who I was? That's what life is. That's what life is. Life is this ever changing stream where your purpose, your goodness, your significance is expressed throughout your life. And the themes around you change and people come and go. But a life that endures as a leader is one where you know who you are and why you're here. And you maintain that even in the midst of that. And if you listen to that closely, you heard the themes change. But that same essence of that same central core was there. So why did I choose music as a framework? Well, first, I play 8 instruments. So that may have something to do with it. All right, now you'll notice most of those are brass instruments, so they're pretty easy to switch between because you learn the same techniques. And the other two is a recorder and an Irish tin whistle. I know a little bit of keyboard and then the mouth harp. I'm not going to say I'm great at any of them, but I enjoy myself with them. Probably I'm spending most of my time on an Irish tin whistle lately because I really just like the sound on that. And I want to get a bass one. So that'll add a 9th instrument at some point, just because it's got a deeper sound and a mellower sound. So what I'd like you to do is consider harmony. Consider life harmony as your framework. So let's go through some definitions. So a melody is a succession of single tones in a musical composition. It's just a simple melody. Single notes, but they make a pleasing sound together. But then harmony is a simultaneous combination of tones, especially when blended into chords that we have determined are pleasing to the ear. I love this music. So why else harmony? See, harmony is ongoing. If we played every note at the same tone, at the same intensity, at the same volume, what would that be? It would be noise. It would not be pleasing to the ear. Okay? Um, there's change. Harmony is motion. At the fundamental level, what's happening is air particles are being moved. They're landing on your eardrum. Your brain is translating that pounding on your eardrum into a sound so that we can distinguish it. That's all motion. There's motion from the instrument that creates it, whether it's your voice or another instrument, motion across the air, motion on your eardrum, motion in your brain, along the nerve channels to reach your brain, where your brain uses electrochemical motion to decipher it. Every stage along the way is motion. Harmony is integrated. That to me is probably the best piece about harmony is it's an integrated approach. Each piece is designed to work together to help create the overall sound. And if you sit back and listen, and you're like, does this make a pleasing sound? And if it does, it doesn't matter what other people think. Is it pleasing to you? You know, I'm an ABC music person. Okay. Do you know what an ABC is? That's an anything but country. Okay. I am not a country music fan. All right. I don't find I just don't find it as enjoyable as I do, classic rock or even opera. I'm not a fan of country music. I grew up with my aunt and my grandmother listened to Conway Twitty and all of the twang, and it turned me off. But I really do like other forms of music. All right. But it's an integrated approach. Harmony is easy to recognize, even for somebody who I can't sing. I can hear harmony. Now my wife has perfect pitch. It drives her nuts when people sing out of tune. I've got a little more tolerance, okay? I see Charlotte. Charlotte, do you sing? Yeah, okay. So it probably drives you nuts too when people sing out of tune.
Yes.
All right. But it's easy to recognize, right? You can tell, like, yeah, I like that sound. And I can tell it's a pleasing sound, even if it's not my favorite type of music. I can hear it actually, the notes resolve together, so they're not creating this conflict. Now, what was the other one we talked about? Guilt. Here's another piece. Harmony requires rest. All right. There's been a saying, it's in the speaking business. Bill Gove used to say that in speaking, the beauty in the speech is in the space between the words. Because otherwise it's just something you can read. It's the spacing, it's the emphasis, is all of that. I think music is the same way. The power in music is in the space between the notes, and it requires rest. Harmony supports the melody, right? That's the whole job of harmony is to support the melody. My wife's a high soprano. Okay. She can sing a second soprano, but what's the job of the second soprano? To support the notes that the high soprano is singing. What's the job of a man who sings bass? To support all of the notes above them. I'm sorry, bass singers, you guys normally don't get the melody. Okay. Other than Barry White, he gets the melody just because he's Barry White. But, if you're in a band, very rarely does the bass singer get the melody. All right. They support and they bring in their emphasis to support it. See, what are the notes in your life? And just like in music, for those who read music, these are whole notes on the top, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes. Not every note in your life is big. Your big rocks, your family, your faith, your career, the job that you do to pay your bills. Those are big rocks. There may be smaller rocks like community involvement. Toastmasters is a smaller rock for me. And people are like, how is that possible? You were the president. Well, my faith, my family, my health, my career were always above Toastmasters. But for me, my second two rocks are Toastmasters and Scouts. But then I've got other things that support that. But you also need rest, and you need whole rest. You need half rest. Sometimes you just need a little nap. Okay. Sometimes you just need to take 5 minutes and pray or meditate, whatever your spiritual life requires. Just sit with your eyes closed and listen to the sounds around you. Take that moment to rest. So many of us sit in our chairs every day. If you get up and walk 5 minutes every hour, you'll be healthier, you'll have more energy, it's better for your body. And when you get back to your desk, you're generally more, at least I am, generally more productive. So what are your priorities? Your family, your work, your faith, your health. Everybody's got their own order of priorities, and this is not a criticism of you. This is not something where I think it's best to use this as a mirror and not as a hammer. And what do I mean by that? This is a mirror for you to reflect on your own life. This is not a hammer for you to go and attack somebody else for the choices that they're making. See, I think young moms may have it the most difficult in this. All right. Some moms choose to stay at home, and moms in the workplace criticize them and judge them. Some moms choose to work. The stay-at-home moms, or maybe their mother-in-law, criticizes them and judges them for those choices because those aren't the choices that they would make. But what's most important is that your family supports those choices. Those closest to you, those in your inner circle, support those choices that you're making in your life. So something I would encourage you to do is conscientiously think about what are your priorities. Write it down. Put it on a piece of paper where you can see it. And you know what? It will shift. I was very involved at Scouts. I still am for 30 years. But when I got on the board of directors in Toastmasters, my involvement in scouting for those 8 years diminished because I couldn't do both well, or I couldn't do as much in both things well. So I reduced what I was doing with the scouting. Now I'm more involved in scouting, still involved in both, but probably spending more time on scouting than Toastmasters right now. Why? Because I'm not on the board of directors. I don't need to put the time in for the organization. I still have work to do this year, and I'm sure I'll get called back for future work. But now I've been able to spend time working on a book, this book, that'll be coming out later this year. One of the other issues that I haven't talked about yet is the role of guilt. All right. And in music, consonance is a harmony chord or interval that is considered stable. Okay. It's considered stable. Very stable notes, pleasing. Maybe not your favorite instrument, but the sounds work well together. Dissonance is a harmony, rhythm, chord, or interval that is considered unstable. And I'm sorry for those who are musically gifted, but listen to the rhythmic dissonance here. The drummer is playing one time signature, and the band is playing a different one. For those who don't know, this is Black Dog by Led Zeppelin. All right? But the drummer, I believe, is playing in like 9/4 time, and the band is singing in 4/4, and you hear that, and it just jars you. It's unstable, but they make it work well. And that's the thing with dissonance in music. Music embraces dissonance. It creates a journey. Black Dog takes you on a journey. Chuck Berry takes you on a journey in Johnny B. Good to the backwoods of Louisiana from wherever you are. It's a signal. It's not a problem. And it can be used intentionally. And jazz uses a lot of dissonance intentionally, as well as some other musical forms. Um, Middle Eastern music, Arabic music uses a lot of dissonance intentionally. For your life, it indicates a transition in life. See, my daughter moved out, then she moved back in. Then she moved out, and now she's back in. All of those created a transition in life. Empty nesters. It's when we were an empty nester for a little while, it was like, it's so quiet. What are we going to do with our time? And then, now I've got the grandkids in the house, and yeah, I don't have to worry about what I'm going to do with my time because they'll come and grab me and do something with my time, at least for a little while longer. They're starting to get to that 8 to 10 year age where they become much more independent and don't need you as much. And that's good. That's a good thing, even though it's a little sad at times. But it indicates a transition in life. It's not a problem that has to be fixed. It's something that you want to make stable and bring it to resolution. See, resolution is the move of a note or chord from dissonance to consonance. So you hear the dissonance here. Right there, yeah. Some real dissonance. And now, yes, I'm a Led Zeppelin fan. What can I say? All right, but now listen, we're in a stable environment now. The time signature changed from the drummer, but even the notes that we're playing on the guitar, he was playing some notes that aren't even notes. They're between notes. All right, but he's doing it intentionally. It's not a problem. It works together to make a great sound, and that's the thing in your life. So what? What can you do with this? So first is understand what are the notes in your life. And are they whole notes or half notes? And I would really encourage you, take 30 minutes, take an hour, reflect on this, come back to it, write down those things. And if you like this framework, say, okay, this is a whole note. This is something that I need to take care of wholly. This is a half note. And I'm going to call some of you on something because I've got a feeling from the people I've talked to before that I know what's going through some of your minds. Um, well, I do everything to my fullest. Okay, I do everything 100%. I've heard people say that. When I was a district director or incoming district director interviewing area directors, I had a gentleman who came to me and he said, well, no, I can't be an area director. I do everything I can 100%. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, no, you don't. Like, number one, I go, that's a lie. It's physically impossible to do everything 100%. If you did everything 100%, the cells in your body would honestly, they would explode. You can't do that. That's like running your car full engine as long as you can until it dies. That's what happens if you do everything 100%. Then I said the second thing, which was what really hit him. I said, this job doesn't require 100% of your capacity, of your skills. I need the job done. And you've got the skills to do it. And he looked at me and goes, you really called me on that one, didn't you? I will tell you, that gentleman started 4 clubs that year. He started an area of clubs. All right. Now this was years ago, but he's still a member. He still remembers that conversation. I saw him last year and I talked to him and he's like, yeah, I still remember that. I still remember that conversation about that. So what are the notes in your life? Write them down, understand them. Think about, are they a full note? Are they a half note? Are they a little 16th note that just needs to get taken care of and it needs a little bit of your attention? You know, my great aunt, okay, she lives in Pennsylvania. We visited her during the International Convention this year. I don't need to give her full attention. You know, she's my dad's sister. My dad's passed on, but we make sure we keep in regular contact with her. But I don't see her every day like I do my wife and my kids and my grandchildren. They need more of my full attention than she does. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not forgetting her. I'm putting in those little 16th notes to make sure, or eighth, probably eighth notes was her, to make sure that I give her attention, that she feels loved and honored and appreciated for all that she's done in my life. Where is there dissonance? If your children move out, there's dissonance. If your parents get sick and you have to take care of them, there's dissonance. If you get sick and somebody has to take care of you, there's dissonance. You get married, you get divorced, you have children, your children move out. I mean, there's so many things that create dissonance. Understand where the dissonance is and ask yourself, can I resolve it? You know, when my mother got sick, I couldn't resolve it. I didn't have that ability to resolve that she was sick and probably going to pass, which she did. I couldn't resolve the situation, but I could resolve my feelings. I could resolve how I spent my time to make sure I was saying the things that needed to be said to her, to make sure I had those conversations. Now my father, he went very quickly, you know, but I had had those conversations with him. So can you resolve it? If yes, how? Sometimes you can't resolve the situation, but you can resolve yourself acting it. I really hate the term time management because we all get 86,400 seconds a day. It's how we use them. You're managing yourself in time. And I'm not the first to say that, but I do like that analogy. But if you can't, why not? And dig a little deeper because sometimes you can, even though you don't think you can. So how can you use this going forward? I mean, that's really up to you. Here's what I would tell you. If you think this resonates with you, give it a try. There are things you can do tomorrow to do this, and it's not a big thing. See, leaders promote harmony. They promote harmony on their team. There's been some interesting articles about how companies use work-life balance. So when I was doing the interviews for this book, I talked to a woman, and she worked for a big four accounting firm. I won't say which one, but from my understanding, they're all pretty similar. And they preached work-life balance. They were always talking about work-life balance. And they said, okay, we're going on a retreat this Thursday for work-life balance. And then they got the note on Friday morning that they need to come in on Saturday to make up for the time that they missed in the office on Thursday. Right? So there's a lot of lip service to work-life balance, and there's a role of guilt. A lot of people use guilt to promote work-life balance. What's really interesting, and we saw this in our company, 2 years ago, we switched to an unlimited time off policy. All right. And just if you were getting your work done and you gave us sufficient notice, we weren't tracking how much time you spent. We, like many other companies that did that, actually saw a reduction in time people were taking off. And it wasn't intentional, but there were two things going on. One is there was this comfort level that, yeah, I can take off when I need to, so I don't need to worry about losing hours to take off. But the second thing, there's a psychological thing of like, well, they say that, but do they really believe it? Now we do, but large companies have seen this. It's been fairly common. So if you're going to do something like that, you got to make people take time off. All right. And some companies make people, and that's why a lot of companies, you lose your vacation time to make sure you take time off. And a lot of the large accounting firms, they require people to take time off because that's when you catch theft. That's when you catch insider stuff because they can't maintain it when they're not in the office. We have, we have, Charlotte, it's up to you how much time we want to spend on
Mm.
Q&A. I know we don't have a lot of people in the room right now, but for those who watch later, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it, but we'll see if there's any questions. I see Charla, Michael, and Angel on right now.
Yes. So, with this fantastic presentation, Matt, so much for us to think about. And I love the analogies that you use with harmony. Man, the music analogy is just wonderful because life can be so fluid. I love that you used music, and I hope we can all make better music in our life
Mhm.
by listening and, and looking. And I love how you said reflect. So, as we
Yeah.
reflect on our lives and see what we could do to make our lives. Just to me, I just kept hearing that beautiful symphony. I'm like, how can I make my life more harmonious? So
And,
thank you for
and
that.
yeah, think about it this way. The same piece of music played by a different band and a different conductor or orchestra will sound different.
That is so true.
The same piece of music played by the main conductor and the guest conductor will sound different because the conductor will pull out things. Now, they're not major differences. They're subtle differences. It's in the spacing. It's in adding some legato at points to draw something out, or adding some staccato, that maybe the author didn't put in, the composer didn't put in to create a different feel for it. It's like when people rework. I'm not a big fan of when somebody redoes a piece of music and does it note for note. All right. But there's I saw this woman, I can't remember her name right now, it's gonna drive me nuts. I think it's Angela. She won like Norway's Got Talent, and she did a cover of Bohemian Rhapsody for for I think America's Got Talent. Yeah, for America's Got Talent. And it was amazing. If you saw when Led Zeppelin was inducted into the rock to the was praised at Rockefeller Center, and Heart sang a cover of theirs, and it was completely different, but it was completely one. And the best one is Disturbed Sound of Silence. So if you listen to Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence, all right, and I'm not a big Disturbed fan, but this song, okay, and it's like the Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel is the plea to listen, and then Disturbed, the version that Disturbed did, and it's the one on the I think it was on the Letterman show that he did, was the anger that people didn't listen. So it completed the song. It made it different. It's the same words. It's the same bass music, but the way he sings it is different because he's a different person. It's the same thing with your life. People are going to judge you. People are going to make assumptions about you. Surround yourself with people who care about you, and it's that makes it okay. And when you look at it and go, you know what? I like the sound of my life, and that's really what matters. That's really what matters.
Matt, you remind me, because when you're talking about covers, there was at the Kennedy Center, they were honoring Cher, and Adam Lambert did a beautiful cover of Believe by Cher, and it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
slowed down and it was different. And Cher, when you listen to Cher's Believe, it's very high energy. When
Right.
he sung it, it was so deeply emotional.
Yeah.
But also, I want to mention your talk today reminds me of I watched a musical in high school that changed my perspective on life, and it's called Rent. And
Hmm.
your speech today reminds me of Seasons of Love
Yeah.
because in that song they talk about you only have so much time. Are you making it meaningful?
Yeah.
So, brought back. I was only here for a bit. You brought back memories that I didn't even know were there yet.
Yes. Thank you, Angel, for sharing too. I would like to ask, Michael, thank you so much for being here too. Did you have any comments you would like to make today?
No, I'm just glad I'm here at this meeting. I can't believe what I'm hearing because all these times I've been hearing about this fancy term, work-life balance. I'm a Gen Xer too, and I tend to wonder where this phrase came from. We never talked about this when I was in the younger years. We just had to make some adjustments while as we go through life, and I wouldn't have known. One day I'd hear Matt talk about. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such a false premise that there's only two things in your life, work and life. There's so many things in your life. And what that does, think about it. That from a if you're saying work and life need are balanced, that means everything in work and everything in life is balanced. That means you're spending 12 hours a day in work and 12 hours a day doing everything else. All right, like just at a fundamental level, if you take the analogy to its natural conclusion,
Right.
you know, or eight, eight, and eight, but now you're not now you've got work-life rest balance. So that's some of those issues I have with the framework. But Michael, yeah, I grew up, we never talked about work-life balance. You just made adjustments.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And it's funny
Um,
because your conversation, Matt, is playing into what's currently happening in the workforce today,
yeah,
post-COVID, because everyone learned that, unless you had an essential job where you had to be there, by working at home, you could spend time with your family, you could take breaks, you could go, if you didn't have a meeting, you could finish your work later and go to a movie. And people started learning, though, that their time, which is what you were talking about today, those seconds in each day, that's what's valuable, not the money,
yeah.
not the other things added on. It's
But
crazy.
the what the research has shown post-COVID is there's been an impact on this completely remote
Mm-hmm.
environment. Um, People aren't integrating into the workplace culture as quickly. People
Yeah.
aren't getting promoted as quickly because they're not being seen by other people.
You-
I mean, when I was at Office
It's
Depot,
crazy.
I was because I was in a meeting, the executive vice president saw me and saw the way I attacked this problem, and then I ended up getting a 3-level promotion in one shot because of that.
Oh
If
yeah,
I'd been
no, it's
remote, if I'd been remote, he would not have gotten that same sense of me. So it's not a this is good, this is
no,
bad.
it's the
There's
mix.
trade-offs to all of this.
It's finding the right mix, and that's what you're talking
Yes,
about.
mix, not balance.
Yep.
Not balance. Okay. Think about a mixer board. All right. So a really good. Now, my son did sound at our church for years, and he's done like 15 Toastmasters conferences here in the local district. He's doing one again this year. He's doing the sound again this year. Well, they don't set the board and put their hands off. Okay, they're making adjustments because Charlotte gets up, she's got this big voice, she's energetic, and so they dial her down. And then Angel gets up, Angel's more, more, I'm not going to say controlled, just speaks at a softer level generally. All right. So we've got to adjust it up so that people can hear Angel. We're not going to make
I've never
Angel
heard
sing.
that
We
one,
can make
but cool.
adjustments in the mixing board. And it's the same thing with life. You can make adjustments in that mix of which notes are playing, how frequently, the levels of rest. You need to, and I think for most people it makes it easier because if you're not counting time, which is what a lot of people do with a work-life balance, they count time. If you're just operating on feel and you've got people outside of you who can check you on that feel, I think for me, that's been the most effective way to go about it. And what I realized when I started developing this was that this is the way I've been living. I just wasn't calling it this. And that's where this came from. It has honestly this was supposed to be one chapter in my book, and it's turned into the entire book. Okay.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. This has been amazing. We can't wait till the book comes out. Again, just this segment has made such an impact on our lives. We can't read
Yeah.
the whole book and watch how we change, learn, and grow and develop. So thank you so much. Thank you for speaking with us today. I know you're
I'm
from
glad
Florida,
to.
but I always say that Texas still claims you. So thank you so much for
It depends because like I lived there for 10 years and I've been told that's not enough because I wasn't born there by some Texans.
no, no. That's fine. We claim you. Yes. So
All right.
thank you
I
so much
appreciate
for
it.
coming to District 100's Learning Lab. And on behalf of our fantastic program quality director, Umanka December, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you very much,
wonderful
everyone.
day. Thank you, Matt. And now I know we're running just a little bit behind. It's 6 minutes over, but so well worth it. We would love to welcome our District 100 District Director. Angel, please tell us about your segment today. And thank you so much for wanting to help District 100 learn and grow.
Thank you, Charla. I need Charla in the future whenever I go to get on stage because I need that kind of energy that prepping people for me. I think it's funny because I've never heard anyone describe me the way Matt Kinsey just described me. When I speak, I am definitely not the soft-spoken type, but that is great that people may think that. So today I've been thinking about how to approach this and what we're gonna do and how we do it. So I think a lot of people are struggling with pathways and not necessarily what to do or how to do it, but how do you even access it? How do you put in projects and things like that? So I'm gonna go over how to access it. We're gonna talk about what's inside of a path, how do you submit things, like all of those general topics. We're gonna talk also about unpacking pathways because I think that's important. And then we'll go into why it's important for a club to promote this, talk about it in your meetings, and get everyone involved. Because guess what? As district director, we have a quarter and a month left. And as everyone knows, this is the last year that we'll be District 100. And that's okay. We're evolving. We're becoming something new. But we want to go out with a bang. We want to make people know we were here, right? That's the whole purpose. We were here. We had something to say. So I'm going to share a link in the chat, and for everyone online, I'm going to ask Lena later to put it into the YouTube. This is a direct link to Basecamp. When the new pathway system rolled out, it's actually accessible from direct link now. When you click this link, it'll take you to a login page just like the Toastmasters website. You use your same credentials and you can log in. And for anyone who can't see, it's app.basecamp.toastmasters.org. And it's a great way to bookmark it. It'll take you directly to Basecamp. You don't have to go through the website and try to click another link. It takes you directly there. And once you log in, you'll see my crazies. There you go. You don't have to see my crazy life as much anymore. So here we go. Once you log in, you'll see a page that says, Welcome to Basecamp. I'm logged into mine. You may see different screens based on how many paths you have, things like that. I am really crazy and I'm in multiple things all at once. And that is normal for me. For you, you may only see, your one path, or you may see a path and one other thing. But just know this page is going to be your home page. This is where everything lives. So if you scroll down this page, you'll see any path you currently have active. These are ones you've paid for and that are ready to go, even if you haven't started them. As you scroll down, you'll see any you've completed. I'm not going to go through I've done all of them multiple times. So it's a lot, right? But the other fun part is if you look at this next page, and we're on the dashboard, by the way, the member side of the dashboard, you'll see achievements. And this is where you can actually find your learning badges once it loads. Internet permitting, once these show up, I'll show you what you can do with these. They're quite fun. Okay, here we go. So every time you've earned a badge, it'll be on here in color, right? If you haven't earned it, I think it grayed out or something, which is fine. But they have all the badges here you've ever earned. And guess what? It's funny. If you've done it more than once, I think it shows a number on top of it, which is kind of interesting. I just seen that today. But the fun part about these badges is once you've earned something, say you got a level 4 and you want to share that, you can click share and you can post it to LinkedIn or Facebook. Or you could just copy the URL and post it wherever. So this is really interesting. I think that it helps enable, achievement sharing. If you went through an entire path and you're like, I just finished dynamic leadership. Well, I can share that now to my LinkedIn. I can tell them I've taken a course and did all the work to train myself how to be a better dynamic leader. Am I like the best? No, but I'm getting better. And you know what's funny? You could do it again and keep getting better and look at it differently. So there's all those badges. You have feedback badges. I don't know what these are. I've not done them yet, apparently. You have some certificates. So, there's some certificates in here as you get them. You also have speech logs from any time, and I'll show you how to get these later. But you can put in your speeches and it'll keep track of them. So as you notice, I've started doing that recently because I thought this is a great way to keep track of my speeches and what I'm doing and where I've given speeches at. Then there's this feedback tab. I can get feedback directly to the Basecamp manager for my speeches. And guess what? It'll all be here. I don't have to worry about where did I save that PDF? Where did I put that piece of paper that someone gave me the other day? It's in the website right here for me to view. I don't use this as much yet. Like I said, I even have been getting accustomed to everything that's new. But the fun part is that they have like all of these feedback forms in here. So if you're ever questioning, like how can I access the forms? They're all right here. All of the feedback forms. And then there's a resources tab. Resources are going to give you like all of the speech projects and stuff like that. See, there's all these little things. Guess what's fun about this? So see these project descriptions? So say that I'm delivering a social speech and I want to access the path. Guess what? I can download this and print it out. So if I'm a person who prefers printed materials or paper materials, I have the access to be able to download them as a PDF and print them out so that I get it in a medium that works for me. And I don't have to pay Toastmasters $20 for them to print it and deliver it to me. I can go pay maybe $1 or two at the local store, or I can print it on my own printer, and it's cheaper, right? So let's go back to the homepage. I'm not going to go into Basecamp Manager yet. That's Club Officer side, but we will get there. Don't worry. So what I want to show you is like the basic path experience. Now, the first time you log in, it may show you like the home page to the path. I don't remember correctly, but remember when I click on this, I'm already in it, so it's gonna bring me to like where I left off. So I'm gonna go into my dynamic leadership path, and it'll open up this page right here. Hold on, I'm trying to move this out my way. It's fun. The Zoom windows. Okay, obviously it shows, it put me back in my level 3. So I'll click overview. And I've given feedback to TI. I'm very feedback oriented, even with them. And I told you, what'd be really great? A back button. Like a button that can say, hey, go back to the homepage menu or something for the path. But if you ever want to get back to this page of the path, you can click overview and it'll take you back. So in the overview section, there is all of the levels. These are your levels. This is where path completion lives. So if you notice, there's 5 levels and a path completion. This is very critical to know. Level 5 no longer gives you credit towards the DCP. You now need to complete path completion in order to get that final credit. Yeah, that was a change whenever they implemented the new system. They went from, hey, you did your level 5, now let's make sure you wrap up your path and complete it out, right? Which is not hard. There's only one thing you have to do in there and you're done, right? It's not very difficult. But I think they're encouraging people to start doing that more. In each level, there's going to be a set of projects and a set of things you need to complete. Now, I do want to say this. At the top of each level, there's this little level description, right? These are kind of your overviews of that level. Level 1 and 2 are very common between all. And I'm going to take a moment here and tell you how you can make level 1 and 2 different if you're doing more than one path, or if you're like myself and have done all 11 in the previous path, base camp series. And now you're like, well, what do I do? Like, how do I do another icebreaker? Are you kidding me? So when it comes to these speeches and these projects, what I want and encourage people to do, what I recommend, is that you think of it differently and challenge yourself. So one way I've done this is every time I give an icebreaker for a new path, I ask myself, how can I be more vulnerable than I have been in the past? So over time, especially when we first join, we're a bit nervous, we're a bit shy, we don't know as many people, we may not be as confident, and we're just starting out, right? So it may be a very basic, this is me, and I was born here, and this is a little bit about me, right? But your next icebreaker might be a story from when you were a child that taught you a life lesson. It could be something you went through. So for instance, one of my icebreaker speeches was about when I found out later in life that I was autistic, and how learning that put a lot of things into place and helped me understand myself. and how I don't look at it as a disability as some people think about it as. I think of it as a evolution. I think of the fact that I'm able to see things differently than others. And while there may be mishaps and communication challenges, it's not the end of the world, right? If we learn how to get through it. Um, so I challenge everyone, when you're doing these types of projects, especially in level 1 and 2, think about, what can I do differently? How can I challenge myself to the next level? Because these are great projects to help yourself either increase your authenticity, learn more about yourself, and tell others who you are. It teaches you how to talk about things from your past and your life without giving too much information, and it gives you that balance, right? What do I share? What do I hold in? But it helps you become more comfortable. And guess what else it does? The number one question in every interview that I've ever had is, why should we hire you? Tell me about yourself. That's the favorite question. And it's not as difficult as you think it is. They want to know that you are aware of who you are. They want to know that you know your strengths, your weaknesses, and that you're working to improve those weaknesses and make them less of a weakness, right? Or as some people say, it's not a weakness, it's just an area of improvement. So whenever you're thinking about that, you can really use this to work on that. And that's what I say to people. Challenge yourself. As you go through projects, you're gonna experience other things, and I'll go over unpacking a project in a moment. I want to show you the level 1 page. So each level has this level requirements page. It's going to tell you exactly what you should do, what you need to do, and all your required projects, things like that. So it talks about your path forward, right? And then the very next page in the paths are your checklist. This part needs to be done in order to submit your level completion. This is a new thing. You have to come check them all off before you can submit your level. Now, here's my recommendation. If you're new and you want the structure of doing everything step by step, follow this in exact order. Okay? If being a table topic speaker is better than being an icebreaker for the first time, do it. If you just joined the club and maybe you didn't get to give a table topic, but you're ready to give that icebreaker, do it. These are a suggestion. They're not a required order of operations. This is not math. This is not calculus. We're not going to get it wrong if we don't do it in PEMDAS. We're going to do this. You can mix it up, right? And the same goes for your required projects. If writing a speech with purpose comes before icebreaker, do it. Okay? If your club is okay with it, you could do the speech, do it. There's no problem with that. Mix it up. Do it kind of how you want. But what I do recommend, especially for new people, make sure you've done this all. Because once you learn how to do these things, it's going to become more natural. And each of these things has a purpose. Table topics. How do you think on your feet? If you ever get into a table topic session with me, guess what? I'm asking apocalyptic questions about whether or not you'd save your child or your husband. And what's funny is, though, we all laugh at that. We think it's funny. But what if you ever in an interview or a situation, well, let's say interview, where they say, you have two options here. Say a data breach happened and you need to respond quickly. What's the first thing you're going to do? And honestly, the first thing you should do is consult the business continuity plan and alert proper authorities based on local law. I work in tech, that's how I know that. But say that, we ever are in a situation where it comes down to those types of choices. It's a difficult decision to make, but sometimes we don't have time to make the most informed decisions, right? So this teaches you how to think on your feet, how to collect your thoughts, how to give a good response in a short time, and it helps you make decisions quicker based on limited knowledge. And what's funny is no matter what you're doing in life, if you're the district director or you're a mom or a parent or anything like that, there's times where you're gonna have to make decisions that are not the most informed because you don't have time to gather more information. There's times. And there's times where your brain may go so quickly through the options that people think you're not even thinking through the decisions. That's the case for autistic people. We tend to see multiple paths at once and be able to process it a little bit quicker. We don't process emotions as quickly, but we can definitely hit logic. And a lot of people think we don't think through those implications of a decision. So learning how to take a pause, think about what's being asked, and then say, oh, this is what I would do, and this is why. It helps whenever you're talking to other people or making decisions or doing things like that. So, if you ever question whether roles will give you anything back, and the answer is yes, being a timer or all counter, guess what? Tests your focus. As a person with ADHD, let me tell you, it is so easy to be distracted by anything going on around me. And sometimes I have forgotten to hit the time. So, practice makes perfect, right? So every level will have this. Every level has, the speech projects. Let me take you through one example of this. I won't take everyone through every example because we don't have time this morning. But I do want to show you some important parts of a project. And we're actually going to go into my next part, which is unpacking a project. So the first part's like the information about the project. Guess what's on the first page? PDF files. You don't like the internet in this day and age. I respect you on that. I don't know how you ever live as a person working in tech, but if you are preferring the paper, you can download them right here and print them out. They're all on the very first page. Here's a recommendation to club officers. If you have members that are vehemently opposed to logging in to this website or to Toastmasters at all, ask them if they're comfortable if you create a password for their account and maybe share it between the two of you. And then you can log in with them. Go in there, print out their projects, and give it to them. As long as you have informed consent, them saying, hey, I'm not going to log in. I would like someone to log in for me. It's okay if you create a password for me. It's perfectly fine. Make sure you get informed consent, though. Don't just do it for them willy-nilly. This way you have they're knowing about it. They understand what's going on. They don't have to touch the system. You can go in, you can help submit their projects for them, you can print out their projects for them. And guess what? They're still actively in pathways. They still are participating. They're still learning and growing. And they, maybe in time they'll start wanting to pick it up. Maybe they'll want to start learning how to do it. But our job is to support them, even as a co-member, even as another member. Our job is, bringing in some of the newer people is to say, hey, if you're not comfortable with that yet, let me help you until you're comfortable. Okay? That's what it's about. So get those people active and involved, even if they're a little bit averse to it. So there's your projects. You can print them out. Your next part, it'll take you through a lot of different things. It'll talk about the introductions. It'll give you all of that information. You have the introduction and assignment for each part. You'll have different materials in this side section part depending on the project. Like I said, I'm just going to go through this one, but explore it. See what they have to offer. So here's another part they've added in. What do you know about? What are your strengths? What do you wonder before you start the project, right? I really don't add these in. So these are optional. If you've maybe done all the paths and you're working through them again, you don't have to fill this out to submit it. This is for your personal view. If you're one of those people who like to take a lot more notes and maybe be a little bit more reflective or introspective, do it. If you're one of those people who are like, oh, I really don't feel like writing out a bunch of stuff right now, skip over it. It's fine. You know you and make it work for you. These are just there to help you and guide you and teach you. It's just like, school. You're not going to use every resource given to you. You're not going to use every time you use a calculator to figure out the math problem. Maybe you can easily do it in your head, right? If it's 1 + 1, are you really going to go add on a scientific calculator? No, most people know that. So if this is not for you, that's fine. But if it's for you and it works for you, use it. It's there, right? And then it has competencies. Then it's going to talk about your speech, what you need to do. It'll talk about, all of those little things, your goals. So like I said, these are different in each project. It gives you information. Sometimes they'll give you like information on, like what to do, right? It teaches you a lot of different things. As I said, these are all different in every project. So you're going to go through the evaluation, you're going to go to review and apply, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, there's a lot of different questions on here to help you with your project. They're optional. If you've done the icebreaker 2 times and you're like, maybe I want to do it a little differently, and you don't really need to answer these questions, right? You've already done this 2 times. But if you're a newer member or someone who's a little bit more reflective, maybe you want to come in and fill these all out and ask yourself these questions. Maybe that's your challenge to yourself. This time I'm gonna fill out every little form. Like go through them though and see what it's asking you. And if you want to write stuff in here, do it. If you don't, read over it and then go to the next part. That's perfectly fine. This is about making it what's in it for you, right? How is it going to work for you? Here's a little checklist. This checklist actually doesn't need to be completed for credit. It's just to help you figure out how to do things, right? If you're a new member. So you'll schedule your speech, you'll do all of that. It helps guide you. You'll reflect on things that you've done, And then here's the most important page, complete your project. So it'll include the what you knew, what you wondered about, and now, completely optional again, what have you learned after your speech? What did you learn about yourself? Maybe what did you learn about giving a speech, right? So you can hit that and do that. And here's the best part of this. If you fill this out before your speech, you can come in, type your speech title, click the date you're going to give your speech. You can add your club. It pulls the club. If your evaluator is in the club, you can select your evaluator from the list. So like I'll come right here to Caltech, and everyone knows Karen. I'll just pick on Karen right now, Karen Lucas. So say that I make her my evaluator, and then I can pick the evaluation that I'm doing. Like, what am I doing? I'm doing an icebreaker. Boom! I can pick that resource, right? And here's the fun part. If you do this part before you give your speech, you can hit save and email. What this does is it saves your speech details for, whenever you're going to give your speech. But then it also emails Karen and lets Karen know, hey, this person's giving a speech, you're their evaluator. Here is where you can submit an evaluation for them. Okay, so she gets a link to go and do the evaluation. If you're filling this in after you've given your speech, you already have your evaluation, you can still fill this out, but instead of hitting save an email, unless you want to ask them for, one in the system, you can hit save log. Save log will then save your speech. Remember that section I showed you on the dashboard where it had the speeches you've done? Remember that part? I can show you again later if needed. It will save your speech details to that portion. So every speech you give, if you hit save, at least hit save log, you'll have a log of every speech you've done for your clubs, which makes it a lot easier to find. Once you've done this, you have to hit one of these buttons. You hit the before you move on, and it'll ask you, did you do this? Did you do that? Guess what? Once you've done it, you hit complete my project. I won't do this because I've already done it. Once you hit complete your project, it'll ask you to confirm it. Once you confirm it, you submit it and it goes to your club officers. Now, the important thing to know, if you didn't remember this initial checklist up here, you won't be able to submit the level. But once you've done all of your projects, so that was project completion, right? So once you complete your project, you'll do this little, before you continue or move on, or I think it's before you move on, right? If I read it correctly. You'll have a before you move on in each project area. Yes, The website's even slow for the district director. Um, so that's not that's not uncommon. The website's slow for everyone. But you see, there's this before you move on in every project. This is you marking your project completed. Okay? I don't? Okay. Once you've done all of your projects, there's a level 1 completion portion right here. And this is the same thing in every level. This is what it's going to tell you. If you did not do your checklist before, it won't give you the option, right? So what you want to do, if you're in one club, it may just show your club, right? I don't know what it looks like because I've not been in one club since I joined. But if you're in one club, it may just say your club name. However, it may have this drop down. And guess what you get to do? Every single level, you can determine what club you submit this for. Here's the important thing to know. Whenever you submit this for a club, you're giving them the credit for your level completion. So whenever we talk about DCP in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you why that's important. Because sometimes if you're in 2 clubs, one of your clubs may have already 4 level 1s, right? They've met that DCP requirement. But your other club may not have all 4 yet. So that can help you make a decision on which club to submit it to. Because maybe you want to give your other club credit so that they can meet their DCP requirement and meet their goal, right? So every time you do this, you'll submit it, you'll hit the you'll pick your club, you'll hit submit. It'll ask you to confirm it that all things are done, and then it'll send it to your club officers. Whew. So let's talk about unpacking really quick. Whenever we're working through projects, sometimes these projects can be boring. To us, to some people, right? Everyone's mind works differently. Some people are more creative. Some people are more visual. Some people learn through tactile interaction. Some people learn by watching a damn video on YouTube, right? Like, that's perfectly fine. But Pathways is a framework. It is the basic, like, textbook, right? It's not there to give you every single way of learning. So what I highly encourage you to do, if you're finding something boring, if you're saying, this isn't really aligning to my life, how can I complete this? Take it outside the box. Unpack it. What is it trying to teach you? So, whenever you go into, let's say level 3, right? Let's just pop into there, and I'll show you a project and give you an example of how this can be done. So say that you're doing negotiate the best outcome. And by the way, level 3, 4, and 5, you have electives. Very similar to your other projects, you get to pick which projects you want to do for those. And I'll show you an example of that really quick because I noticed it here. So like, here we go. Let's click on the home page. See, it tells you kind of what you're going to do, right? Then it says Introduction to Assignment. Let's look at this page. So if you look at this, it tells you the purpose, it tells you the overview, right? What I want you to do from here, go through the learning, just read over this, right? You need to know what they're trying to teach you. Here it is, right here. In learning in the negotiate the best outcome, there's a competency list. It says foster an agreement between parties from their current state to the new state. Understand how different negotiation styles are applied. Engaging meaningful conversation to reach a mutually beneficial goal. Maintain professional and appropriate composure and identify how and when to use negotiation strategies. Oh my God, that sounds boring. Or, oh my God, it doesn't fit my life. I'm not a negotiator. I don't actually do anything with it. Do you have kids? Some of you may, some of you may not, but I'm going to use it as an example. And if you have kids, you are negotiating every day of your life for the next 18 to 50 years. Okay? You don't want to, like, it's not the best thought process in psychology anymore to just say, well, I'm your parent, I told you to do this, right? It doesn't really get the buy-in. It doesn't teach them how to make better informed decisions. You're telling them follow and obey the orders, right? You're not teaching them to think for themselves about why this could be right, right? So you're going to want to use some negotiation with your children. They're humans too. They might be your children. They might, I'm very Southern here, and trust me, I was raised in the you don't talk back to me or I smack you. But I learned recently that, they're little humans. And if we treat them, I'm not going to say we show them all the adult stuff, but if we treat them more adult, we treat them like they're able to think, they will start learning how to think earlier. They'll start saying, hey, mom, I think you were right about that. And I should have done it that way. Next time I will, because I've learned, right? It's no longer, you made me do this and I hate you for it. And 20 years later, they're like, you were right. When you go to this type of environment, it's more like, oh, I learned why you did that, right? Teaching people why is important. We've learned the why because we've been through it. But anyway, not to go down a rabbit hole of parenting. Um, as But you can use these skill sets in parenting. So if you're not in a negotiation position at work, you're not directly impacting anything like that, use it in your life. Guess what? If you maybe, you're single, alone, don't have children, sometimes you have to negotiate contracts for buying a house. You may have to do that. Here's the fun part. Make it theoretical. Maybe you don't have direct application. Maybe you can't find a specific situation in your life or in your work that can do that. Make it theoretical. If I ever had to negotiate for buying a house or something like that, what would I do? How would I do it? And walk yourself through those steps and give a speech like that. And then the final recommendation here is to think about maybe reach out to the district leader, reach out to Angel, reach out to Charla, Katie. We've been there and done these things. We have district environments, we have district committee roles where some of this may actually take effect. And so if you're thinking about how can I learn this, we can help you find positions to learn it in. The other thing I say is don't think anything's too crazy. I've had a club that teach it that their members are and I'll use two different clubs here for this. Dungeons and Toast, and I have a Kepler Astrologers. So Dungeons and Toast is a gaming club. They Dungeons and Dragons. They theme their entire club meeting themes and everything are themed around it. They use that. They took a whole path and reframed it into how do I use visionary communication to learn to be a better game master? Because game masters have to, talk about their vision, they have to guide people, they have to allow people to make decisions as they're going. And guess what? A lot of that path taught people those skills. So what did they do? They refaced it and made it something interesting for their members. This is a very drastic, example of it. But individually, you can think of these projects from whatever frame of mind you're in. Make it interesting. Kepler astrologers, same concept here. Well, we don't really do everything as corporate, but we're learning astrology. What can I use in these projects to learn astrology or teach it to others better? How can I use it to talk to clients, right? There's so many different applications. When you think about it that way, pathways and the projects become less boring, less monotonous, and less boxed in. So if you're fine with the packaged product, use the packaged product it is, as is. But sometimes you may want to take that package, and I'm going to go into cooking here, you may want to take that packaged product, cut it up, throw it in some other things that may sound good like they go together. And this is a totally Southern thing. We'll mix a bunch of things together and oh my God, it comes out amazing, right? So, be creative with it if you're creative. There's so many options. And I think that when it comes to this, you're only limited by the limits you place on yourself. If you think you can't do it, if you keep saying it's boring, if you're like, this is crap, I don't want to do it, guess what? You'll never do it. It's boring, and everyone around you is going to know it. And if you think of it from the perspective of, let me try to see what I can do differently with this. I've been in Toastmasters for 30 years. I haven't, but I'm just giving an example. I've been in here for 30 years. I've done all of this, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? If you think there's no more room for growth, we need to have a conversation. Until you die, there's always room for growth. And according to some beliefs, even after you die, there's room for growth. Okay? So it never ends. It never ends. But what I want you to think about is, what are new ways you can do it? What are those? And if you can't think of it, talk to someone like me, talk to someone else, talk to a mentor, a friend, and get their input on it. Because maybe other people can maybe give you ideas. That's the beauty of human connections. Whether you're online on Zoom or next door to each other, get on a Zoom call, talk to each other, go next door and have coffee, and get ideas flowing, because that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to get your juices flowing. So, and just one more comment on this before I move into electives is that, guess what? The other thing this does is, whenever you change your frame of mind, a lot of clubs say, I'm struggling with membership. We're having a lot of guests come over. We have a lot of people interested, but they leave quickly. And one thing, I'm not saying it's common for everyone, but one thing I've noticed is sometimes when you go to a meeting, there's someone complaining about pathways. Or, oh God, this didn't work and it's crap and I never want to touch it again. As a new person coming in who's never experienced it, if the first thing I'm hearing is that, what do you think I'm gonna feel? Why would I want to be part of a program that the current people paying for it are complaining about and hate? So whenever you think of it from that perspective, you think of it, yeah, it's not the perfect system in the world. As we've seen some slowness, there's things that happen. But how can I frame that in positive light? What are the positives here? What can I actually learn from this? Well, number one, you can learn a little bit of patience. That helps a lot of the time. I am one of the most impatient people in the world, and let me tell you, this website sometimes teaches me that, so don't feel bad. So these are the electives. There's a bunch of electives here, each project, and guess what? It'll tell you exactly how many you need to complete at the bottom. Go through them. If you click one, it'll tell you a little bit about it. And you get to select 2 of these or more. Like, say you selected one and you're like, I don't want to do this one anymore. Guess what? I can uncheck it, check another, and hit save. They aren't going to tell me anything, okay? So think of it that way. What are you working on? Using presentation software. Maybe you're wanting to make a podcast. You can do a podcast. There's a bunch of different options in each level. Each level 3, 4, and 5 has electives. So you can choose what you want to work on and have some fun with it. As I said, there's no back button. You hit overview to go back to the overview. So remember that one. Now, after you're done with all your levels, guess what? You'll go to your path completion. You'll hit a reflect on your path. It's same thing as your other projects. What kind of speech? And then you'll hit path completion. Once you've completed your whole path, you've reflected, you've given your speech on it, guess what? You come on this path completion page, you get to select the club just like your level completions, and then you hit submit, and it goes to your club officers. So that is how, as a member, as just a regular member, you can access pathways, work through it, some of the thoughts on how to take it out the box and unpack it, because that's important. And then guess what? There's this other part right here, notifications. Say that you didn't get an email and someone said, I sent you an evaluation form for me. Look, you can see this. See, Umanga identified me as her evaluator for a speech. Here's a perfect example. I go to my requests, right? See, I can see requests. And I can see this. Now, I give her speeches in the thing, and sometimes I forget to come out and, and fill it out. I'm working on getting better at that. See, even me, as the district director, sometimes, people think, oh, she thinks ain't got nothing to learn. No, I have a lot to learn and get better with. And one of them is coming and filling out these forms on the website a little bit more. But see, whenever you do this, it'll have their speech details because they filled that out. And it's exactly what's on the PDF, all in a web form. And guess what? I don't have to fill out a PDF. I don't have to try to figure out how to save it and email it to them. I come in here, fill it out, and I hit share evaluation, and I'm done. It gets emailed to them, it's saved in theirs, and it's saved in mine. I can view them. If you go to Learning Dashboard, if you go into Feedback, you can view what you've done. See? You can do give or request. I think, no, actually, if you look, so if you click your profile icon, there's a profile button that'll give you your whole profile. You can fill this section out. It's pretty interesting. I didn't know that until recently. I've went and filled out mine. You can see your achievements in this place as well. And guess what? There's feedback. But also, under this profile icon, there's requests. As a club officer, you may get requests to approve someone's submission. You'll get requests for feedback for their evaluations, right? You can also see your clubs. I'm in a lot, don't feel bad, but I can see my clubs and their members. I can see Toastmasters home. So that's the learning dashboard, that's the profile. If you're a current club officer, or guess what, if you go into being a club officer in the coming term, I highly suggest doing it. It'll teach you a lot. There's this Basecamp Manager button up here. Angel, what the heck is that? Well, Basecamp is what we're in. That's the name of the platform we're in. And manager means, well, guess what? You get to manage things. Exactly what it means, right? Basecamp Manager. So in this, you can actually see a log of every approval. So whenever someone, say Katie here, who's part of my club, one of my clubs, goes in, submits a level, it comes to me as the club officer. It says, oh, all club officers can do this. It says, hey, please approve this level. Well, guess what? You can come in. I don't have an example of it now because they've all been approved, but it'll say approve this level. Are you sure? Submit, and it'll approve it. There's no need to go into Club Central and submit it there anymore. It's all through one system. And here's the other fun part. If it's ever questioned who approved something, look, Kenneth, who is in Dungeons and Toast, approved Patrick's level completion request. Or a path completion, see? So there's a log. We can see as a club who came in and approved something, right? So maybe the VPE is not there and the secretary did it. Great. At least we still got it done and we know who did it. We're not going to have a problem with that. We're all working together. But the only thing I'll mention here is you cannot approve your own. No matter if you're the VPE or the president, as much power as we love that it gives us, we can't approve our own. So that's why every officer is allowed to approve. So if I submit one, Katie, who's another officer of the club, Katie, I need you to print my level, please, approve my level for me, please. I've done it all. She knows we've done it, and it's done. She comes in, she approves it, it's logged here. The other part of Basecamp Manager is member overview. So I'm going to do leaders without borders. Most of them are district leaders and won't mind. So see, I can look through here and see that Amanga has a path completion highest level, did a DTM, but she's also completed all these paths and she gave her last speech according to the system on this date. She's using the system, right? So I can see that. Some people haven't, entered speeches in, and that's perfectly fine. It's not a problem. But you can see where your members are. And guess what? There's paths in progress. So Charla may be the VPE. She's like, I need a level 2. I don't know who to ask for it. Well, Charlotte could come in and say, okay, let's see who's working on one. So once you pull it up, yes, it will make you learn patience because it takes a moment. And I'm going to try not to go over time. I know we started a little late. but I want to get through this in completion because I think people need it. People need to see these things. So Charla, you can see right here that, and here's the fun part, you can sort by name. Angel is in 3 different pads. Oh my God, she's crazy. But she has 3 pads open. And you can see that Angel maybe has a level 2 and level 1 she can give for motivational strategies. You can talk to me and see, can I submit it for this club, right? But you can see exactly what people are working on. So I'm gonna pick on a manga a little bit. A manga down here has engaging humor she's working on. She's done all of them except for level 5. Amazing. So we're just gonna encourage her to keep going. But this is the fun part. You can see when people are in multiple things and doing work. So it's all there. And then you can also see recent activity. So I don't know how much activity you'll see here, but see, there's level 4 completions. You can see all of that for your club. Really great. So let me see if I can view. So if you go back to the dashboard, I'll show you this last thing before we go to the DCP and talk about that for a couple of minutes. I know that there's a place. So if I go into achievement, I know that you can view past feedback. So here's your speech logs. And maybe I'll ask Umanga this when she gets back home. She's been sick recently, so keep her in her on our thoughts. But you know, you can come in here and you can fill out these later. All of your speech logs are here. Remember, we talked about that. That's where you can find it. And then I know I've given feedback. I have to find where you can find it. Okay, so I looked this up the other day and now I lost wherever it was because this is Angel and Angel does that sometimes. But what I'll do is later on, if anyone asks, where can I view feedback maybe that was given, we'll look that up and we'll find that for you. Let's do that because I know that there is a place in Basecamp where you can actually view feedback that was given to you. Oh, maybe might be in here. I don't know. And it may be under the speech logs. I don't know, right? But just dig around, find it. It's interesting. It's fun to learn, right? That's what we're here to do, learn. So now let's talk about clubs. I'm going to refresh this one moment. So I'm going to pick on my own club again because I feel like it's better to pick on my club than other clubs. Okay. So DCP, these are the things that it's not TI saying, oh my God, you're a failure if you don't do it. It's not them saying that. It's saying these are the things that normally happen in a club that is well run and being successful. And if you encourage your members to do these things, it can help them grow, it can help them learn and make progress. The other thing is, it tells the external world, what are we doing? So if I was a prospective member and I cared about how much a club is doing before I joined it, I may come look at this. I may say, what are they doing? How much are they actually getting done? Right? That's a question some people ask. So here you can see all of our goals. And right here in this DCP, it says level 1s. You need 4 of them. We have 1. We need 2 level 2s, 2 more level 2s. So here's the thing. Remember I showed you how you can see where the members are in their journey, like what they're currently working on? Use that. Encourage your members to keep growing and say, hey, if I need 2 more level 2s, let me go see who's working on that. Maybe I can encourage them to get it done. Maybe they want to compete in speech contest and they're brand new. Perfect way to get someone to level 2, right? Because they need a level 2. Maybe Katie is working on her level 4 and 1 more level 4 is written right here and she might be stuck and I won't know that unless I ask her. Katie, hey, what's going on with your level 4? I know you've been working on it. Is there anything that you're stuck with? Is there any way I can help? And then she'll be like, well, I really thought this project, I don't know what the heck to do with it. It doesn't fit my life and I don't know what to do. Guess what? Go watch Angel's video on YouTube and she'll tell you exactly how to unpack that. Simple conversation, right? Simple. But you can really see what's going on. And the DCP is a really great way to show proof to yourself and your club that you are doing the things you need to do to be successful and keep growing. And so, as far as pathways in DCP, that's all I'm going to say about the DCP. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And I want to say this. Some of you out there in your club may be a bit discouraged. You may feel like it's already March 8th. Right now, it's March 8th. In the future, it might not be for you. But whatever time of the year it is, you may be looking at it and saying, how are we ever going to get to be distinguished? How are we ever going to get to be select? Or how are we ever going to get our out of the person that vehemently hates pathways into it? You know, you're asking yourself these questions. I want you to think about this. If you never start, you'll never succeed. If you always keep letting fear hold you back, the only thing guaranteed is failure. And the only time you're a failure is if you don't try. Because if you try and you fail, guess what? It's not failure, it's learning. You can keep going, you can evolve, you can learn from it, you can do things differently. And then guess what? Eventually you will succeed. You will hit that goal. But the only time you fail is when you give up and you don't even try. If you never try, you'll never get anywhere, and you're solidifying the fact that you won't get there. And perfect example of this is membership growth, because a lot of people talk about it. Some people recently have said, I don't want to get on the phone because I feel like people aren't going to answer, or they're not going to get back to me. And I say, who cares? They don't know you, you don't know them. If they say yes, guess what? That's the blossoming of a beautiful new relationship. If they say no, guess what? It's not adding or taking away anything to your life. You're not adding or taking away anything from theirs. They're deciding not to try this at the moment. That's fine. Keep going. There's 8 billion people in the world. Not everyone is for everyone. We have to admit that. But here's the thing. If you say that and you stop and you don't do anything about it, guess what? That's all you'll be left with. Nothing. But if you try, and I'm saying this as an autistic person who gets extremely drained by social interaction. If you don't try, guess what? You'll never meet some of the people you meet. Charla, Katie, both of you are direct references of that. I've gotten very close to both of you. But I met Karen Lucas, who is like my best friend. I consider her family. She's my mentor. And I put myself out there, and I went directly to her club and said, I want to get to know you. And guess what? I did that. And if I never tried, guess what? I would have never met these wonderful people that I know. I've never been where I am. And just so you know, the power of trying, I've been a member for 5 years, a little over 5 years. I joined December of 2020 after joining my company because I needed to learn how to talk to people better. And then I am now the district director. And am I the best district director? No. I won't say that. I will admit that I have made mistakes and I'm learning. But I care and I'm trying. And everything that I have not done as well as I wish, I am improving. And that's all I hope for everyone here, whether you've been here 30 years, whether you've been here 6 months, is that no matter how long you've been here, you keep learning, you keep trying to figure out that, and you give grace to people who you think are failing. And maybe talk to them, see, hey, Angel, I didn't like that decision you made. Why did you do it? Or, hey, this might have been a little better. Do you think I can help you with it and maybe we can test it? Because a lot of people think whether you're a parent, whether you're a district director, whether you're in company leadership, a lot of people think we make decisions and we don't think through a lot of things, right? It's like, oh, you didn't think about this. I did, but at the time it was the best, right? And a lot of times, if you just go have a conversation with them and say, hey, why was this happen? Or what can I do to help you? Maybe we can test this. You'll get a much different response than you think, you know? Just like with children, if you're a parent, you go tell your child, hey, that's not the best way to do this. Let me show you what might be better. Guess what? They're going to learn directly from you how to do something better, and they're going to learn that for life. And every time they do it, they're going to say, dang, Mama Charlotte taught me how to do this. I don't know if you have kids, Charlotte, I'm just saying in general. But Mama Charlotte taught me how to do this, and they're always going to have that memory, right? So that's what I leave you with. Be kind to each other. Keep trying. The only time you fail is when you don't try. And I hope you got a little bit out of the pathway session today. And if you need any more help in pathways, we don't have time for questions, but if you need any more help in pathways, I'm going to place my email in the chat. Lena, who just joined, I'm going to have Lena put my email on the YouTube link right underneath the Basecamp link. So the email and Basecamp link will both be in the description of the YouTube video. If you have questions or if you really want to dive in more into pathways, reach out to me. I will set up time to help you. I have no problem doing that. I thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I have another meeting to get to, so I will bid you adieu. Have a wonderful weekend.
Awesome, Angel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all for coming. Angel, thank you so much for sharing to our learning lab in District 100. Everyone have an amazing day. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. Thank you, Lena.
Thank
Have
you,
a great day.
Charla. Always
Bye,
good to see you.
Thank
Oh, you
you.
too. Great seeing you,
Enjoy
Katie.
the
Bye, Michael.
Everybody have a great day. Thanks.